Making sure.
I may as well just explain up front. This is the first time we've ever tried to do something like this. So Sierra on our team handles all of our content, and this was a suggestion she had. I think it's a good one. But what I like about it is gets to bring a bunch of us together and actually have a quick chat about the campaign. I forwarded a couple just real open-ended questions, and my hope is everybody just gets a chance to speak to those questions or whatever else you want to say and get off your chest. But I think it would be great to just have an opportunity, treat this like a real collab. We didn't get all in the same building, but in a way, you're not only just collaborating with us here at Dominion City, but I think it's cool that everybody's collaborating with each other. So always enjoy the chats that come up at collab days, and this is a nice way to get that without being under the same roof. And then I think the goal afterwards, what we're hoping anyway, is we'll be able to clip this out. It is being recorded, so we'll be able to clip this out and give everybody who wants it anyway a couple clips of some key messages that you're making. And if you want to share those on your social channels or anywhere else, you're free to do so. But it's a great way to help us kind of get the word out about the campaign. And whether you want to hold on to it until your release is ready or whatever you want to do is fine with us. But I think this is a bit of an experiment, so I appreciate you coming along with us. Maybe what we can do quickly is I've made note of who was coming to the call, but why don't we just do a quick around the room intro? You can say, where you're from, and if you want to, we can roll right into the first question. But my first question for everybody was just, what made you decide to get involved and make Glorious and Free, and maybe we start there. So on my screen, Daniel, kick and push is up first, and we can just kind of
All
go
right.
around.
Yeah, I'm Daniel with Kick and Push. We're in Sharbot Lake, Ontario, which is 1.5 hours, 2 hours west of Ottawa. We're pretty small. We got a 7 barrel system, and up until this coming summer, I'm pretty much the brewery. Like we got a tap room and some staff there, but I do the brewing and the packaging and the cleaning and everything in between. So hopefully that's going to change this year. Um, Yeah, well, I don't remember how actually I stumbled across this collaboration, but when I saw it, it looked like something I wanted to do. I've been thinking about doing a collab, just haven't had time or didn't know how to go about it. So it was pretty easy to click on it and agree to do it. It's convenient that the beer you've selected is one that I wanted to do this year as well, and I don't have any experience with it, so got a free recipe to start off with. So that's nice.
Awesome. Cool. Go to Sam at Sawdust City.
Hi, I'm Sam Corbet from Sawdust City. I saw this. This came across as an email, but and I thought it was a great thing for us to do. I had another collab that I was actually working on that we'll get to as I explain it later. That this sort of cross paths with, but in terms of being all Canadian and 100% using the suppliers, I think this really speaks to paying it forward. Like 25, 30 years ago, if it wasn't for the bars and restaurants that supported us as craft brewers, we never would have been able to grow into the community that we are now. We have these wonderful suppliers that don't seem to get as much love as they probably should. But how are they supposed to grow if we don't support them the way that the bars and restaurants supported us? If we give them more time with their malt and their hops, and their yeast, of course they're going to get better and grow. And then everything, this as a community, we should be able to rise above together. And I think it's about time that we do this a little bit more often and support those local and small growers in Ontario and other provinces, wherever. Just needed to happen. And hopefully this terrible situation we're in will push us in that direction. And maybe this was just the nudge that we needed to get going and support those local suppliers.
Awesome. Yeah, that's well said, man. Thanks. Jeff, let's go over to you.
You're muted.
Classic.
Classic. Still haven't figured it out. My name's Jeff. I'm from Townbury. I mean, two reasons I joined. I'll pretty much do anything Josh asked me to do. And second of all, well, the reason that I'll pretty much do anything Josh asked me to do is because he only asked me to do reasonable things. Um, but yeah, Josh reached out and we chatted about this. And I feel like
for me, it's a no-brainer. Hey, do you want to make like an all Canadian beer? Like, what's the reason to say no to that? There's not really one that makes sense, even in the best of times, really. But I think like, with everything going on right now, there's obviously a lot of, a lot up in the air on even our availability for things in the future, but or how much they're going to cost us. But at the end of the day, I feel like we go through these ebbs and flows, maybe on a larger scale as a country. I think like sometimes we lose our own identity a little bit. It seems to happen every now and then something's got to kind of kick us in the ass to remind us that we're different, because we are different and in a good way. But I also think that's like, you can look at that on every level down to our brewery, and you get in a groove and you start using the same ingredients and not making the same beers, but you fall into this comfort zone, and sometimes it takes a little bit of a shake up to shake you out of that comfort zone. And I think those times is where you learn and grow. And yeah, I like to echo what Sam's saying, is like there's so many good ingredients out there. There's so many good suppliers out there, but we fall into the area where we just are using whatever is kind of for us and whatever's working. So for us, made a lot of sense. And jumping on something like this, I just think there's no reason to say no, to be completely honest. And we were fired up to do it. So, and our beer turned out really nice. Um, we always wanted to be a brewery who had a reason for doing things, and this was just a really good reason for us to do something. So I'll
It's
shut up.
great, man. Thanks. Getting a little bit of feedback. So maybe if you're not speaking, we'll try to just stay on mute, everybody. I don't know. There's a couple notifications coming through or whatever. So if you don't mind. That's great. Okay, Megan from Troubled Monk. So this is really good. There's too many Ontarians on this call, so I'm really relieved to have a few folks joining from
I'll try to
outside. I think
balance it out. Try to
we're
balance
really
it
happy
out.
to have an Albertan here. So
Yeah.
over to you.
Yeah, I was surprised that there weren't other Alberta breweries participating, but I'm gonna represent Alberta the best I can. I'm at Troubled Monk. We're located in Red Deer. So that's like a halfway point between Edmonton and Calgary. Oh my God. Sorry. I'm just watching what's going on. I mean, get it together. Um, Lots of reasons to participate in this. Like Trouble Monk does a lot for the Red Deer community. We do a lot of local supporting of all of our small businesses here, but this is just a way to kind of grow outside of central Alberta. We have really, really great suppliers here in the Barley Belt. And this was just a really great way to support all of them. And obviously, more than ever, it's a great time to come together as a country, and it gets our name out there, and it supports what you guys are doing. And I mean, realistically, this wouldn't work if we didn't have breweries across the entire country participating. And I think it's just a really great way to come together and really show what everyone is good at and can create different beers. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to try what everyone creates. And yeah, it was something that was very exciting to us. And we're not too near to a release yet. We only brewed it just maybe over a week ago. So, but as soon as we do, hopefully we can somehow be able to try what everyone's making and make some really great beers and make some really great noise as well.
Awesome. Thank you for putting up with me.
That
That was
was
great.
a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah, sorry. Anyway. Alicia from Port Rexton. Yeah, great to have you.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, so I'm Alicia from Port Rexton. We are in rural Newfoundland, about 3 hours outside of St. John's. There's about 356 people living in our community now, but we're very touristy. So we have all the whales, the icebergs, the hiking, the puffins, that kind of stuff. Lots of visitors come by our tap room in the summer. We've been open for about 9 years, so just to get this invite, from Dominion City was very exciting. Just to echo what Sam, Jeff, Megan, what everybody else is kind of saying, it's being a part of that community spirit of the brewing industry and showcasing to everybody across Canada that this industry supports this country. And like you talked about, Sam, about the supporting our suppliers is something that we did unfortunately need this little, kick in the butt to get us going. But I think it's, we all support our suppliers and community in certain ways. And I think this is a really good way to showcase that, we can come together as an industry across the country and put that out there to our customers. I'm excited, but we brewed our beer a couple weeks ago, so it's probably going to come out in the next couple of weeks. So we're really looking forward to it, and it's going great so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm personally very excited to have Port Rexton on. Great brewery and in one of the most beautiful locations I've ever been. So really great to have you. Okay, we'll go to Estelle.
Hi guys, I'm Estelle from Muse Brewing Company. We're a small brewery in southwestern Ontario, close to Lake Erie. We're on a 25-acre farm, and we grow some of our own organic barley on the farm. So my husband and I, he does the brewing and all the production side of things, and I kind of run the front of house. And similar story of just being a small team, a five barrel brew house, but being in in Norfolk County they call it Ontario's Garden. We kind of started up as a farmhouse brewery, trying to use as much local ingredients as we can. So anytime we do a fruit beer, we're using real local fruit. We have a few beers that are already 100% Canadian grown, and one that was 100% homegrown. So when this opportunity kind of came up, it was kind of a no-brainer for us to take part in supporting the initiative of kind of supporting the whole supply chain. Also, like a good timing, with everything going on, and we kind of set out the brewery to show that you can brew good beers with locally grown ingredients. That being said, our other main focus is Belgian styles. So we kind of have that niche of Belgian farmhouse inspiration. So our kind of twist on the beer is that we're using our farmhouse yeast. So that'll make it a little bit unique, maybe from the initial recipe. But yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk a little more about ingredients and what people have selected, but I think that's awesome. And one of the things I really like about this project is everybody's got a chance to express it and make it their way and reflect the best of what they can source near them. And speaking of near them, Megan is not near us. Megan at Winterlong, I think, is by far the furthest from Ottawa, all the way up in Yukon territory. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. Yeah, I'm Megan. We're Winterlong Brewing. We'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary this spring. So when Josh reached out about this project, we thought, oh, sweet, we could use this as one of our anniversary releases. So that'll be at the end of May. So we have not brewed our beer yet, but I just love the idea of feeling a bit more connected across Canada. Obviously, we're super isolated up here. There's 3 breweries in Whitehorse here where we are. We used to have 5, so it's sad 2 have already closed down the last year or 2. Yeah, so just feeling a bit more connected to you guys across Canada. Yeah, we follow each other on social media, sure, but to see people's faces and see what you guys are doing with your beers, super excited to be a part of this. And yeah, unfortunately, can't grow really anything up here. There is some barley trials going on, and one of the smaller breweries here has our little mini tiny craft maltster. So they've used some local barley in their beer, but at our size, we are a 7-barrel brew house, and we brew maybe just over 2,000 hex a year. But yeah, there's not really enough local material to make. So anyways, yeah, it was super fun to kind of source things as close as we could. So we've got hops from BC, malt from Alberta, and yeast from Ontario. So that's kind of cool.
It's awesome. It's great to have you part of the campaign. Thank you. Okay, the next 2 we're familiar with here because they're in our town. But John from Spark Beer, we'll go to you.
Hi, everybody. John from Spark. the reason we jumped like immediately jumped on board with this was yes, one if Josh and Sierra email and say we're doing something, we're always on board with that. But the other thing is we've tried to do as many local stuff as and local beers as we can. We've done some work with Dean at Mississippi Mills. We've kind of exclusively used him as a base malt for most of our beers since 2022. So we love supporting that. And the other thing is, being downtown in Ottawa, we have been through a lot the last few years. Especially, we were talking about this morning about, the convoy coming in and that being, people actually being proud to be Canadian again, and how quickly that shifted, is pretty exciting. Obviously, Canada's had some issues, and and we are aware of that. And but I think just having people excited to support Canada and drink Canadian, is fantastic. So we are very, very happy to do this. We're kind of hoping to have a release party. We brewed the beer a couple weeks ago, so we're going to release it. We're canning it on the 11th, and I think we're going to just have a party that night. We were like, why not? If we can it, it'll be super fresh. So we'll be sending out an email to everybody who's local. But we're hoping to do that. We're going to confirm that this afternoon. But anyway, like always, we're behind on everything, and we're like, screw it, we'll do it. We'll just do it. It'll just happen. But yeah, we're really excited and very happy to participate in this. So thank you, Damien City, for setting this up, and like how quickly you did that and got your beer out, and managed to get so many people asking about it. People came into us because we mentioned it and we're looking for the beer. So people are already excited about it. So thank you.
Thanks, John. And yeah, despite your protestation about being behind, you organize our craft beer week here in Ottawa, and you're great for the scene. So thanks for being part of this.
Which we are also behind on, by the way.
Well, you got a few months for that one at least. Cool. Fairboards over at Bicycle. Great to have you.
Hey everyone, thanks Josh for organizing, and Sierra, this get together. My name is Farry Bors, and with Laura we are at Bicycle Craft Brewery in Ottawa, and just over 10 years now. And yeah, we are again. This is a great opportunity to showcase Canadian ingredients, local ingredients. Similar to Josh and John and many of you guys, we've been using some local ingredients whenever we could, and especially Mississippi Mills malts and some hops that we use in this particular beer. So it's something that is close to our heart. And as soon as we saw the invitation, we wanted to jump on it. And we brewed our beer March 19th. And it's just basically ready. We're just waiting for the label. I haven't dry hopped it yet though, and just so yeah. Once it's ready, I think early next week we're gonna release it, and yeah, just have fun with it. This was a great way to show that our love for our community and our support for Canadian farmers and hop growers. And yeast wranglers, and as well to kind of dedicate some portion of the proceeds to local or national organizations that are important in Canadian identity, Canadian solidarity, basically. Yeah, so we're super excited. I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks again for having us amongst you.
That's great. Thanks, man. Yeah, just again, I just want to touch on, since we're all here together, like this is really cool. I mean, this came from a feeling of just not knowing what to do. And I keep hearing that from people, and I don't know if you are as well, but just the sense of like, somebody do something. This is madness. And at the end of the day, like we just make beer for a living. You can't save the world with that. But I do think, what I love about our industry is like we're so connected to communities by nature of what we do. I just think is a really cool opportunity to harness the power that local beer has. In some ways, I think all of you are firefighters. Like you've been running into a burning building. Nobody else is opening local manufacturing at small scale. Like that's just not a thing that people do anymore. But all of you have done that. Some people are 10 years older, more. I know Faribor's opened when, around the same time we did. So you've been at this for some time and you make real things in your own community, and it's for your community, and you have real human beings who show up to support it. And that is a powerful thing when everything just shows up on our doorstep from nowhere in the rest of our life. So harnessing that at this moment to do something good and having all of you sign on to be part of it, it's really inspiring, and it's heartwarming. I want to give people an opportunity to talk a little bit about the ingredients that they've chosen, but I think maybe we heard a little bit of that in the intros. So maybe just switch it up to the extent that you're noticing yet, like what kind of challenges are you facing as a business? Or maybe more broadly, what are you seeing and hearing in your own communities about others who are facing challenges with all of this tariff and uncertainty, and what is it doing in your neck of the woods? I think it'd be interesting to talk about that for a second. We can kind of just open it up to whoever wants to go and see how that goes. I'll pick on Jeff if no one says anything, but yeah, I'll open the floor.
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, if you guys haven't noticed yet, I'm fine to talk on pretty much any occasion. Um, I think like the biggest thing for me is the uncertainty of everything. You know, it's like I was in sales for 15 years before we opened the brewery. Maybe not 15 years, 10 years before we opened the brewery, but it's like a yes, even a no is better than a maybe, when you're going for a sale. Like I just want to know, yes, am I getting the sale, or no, am I not getting the sale? Because if it's a no, I can just move on. But the maybe is kind of like the worst thing possible. And it's that middle of not knowing what's going to happen. How much more time should I try and spend on this issue or this sale or whatever? So it's like the uncertainty of everything is really, really difficult, especially when newsflash, things aren't as great as they once were in the craft beer world. So it's like, okay, we as a ownership or us as a management team have to decide, how we're going to, tariffs and all that other stuff aside, how we're going to grow our business. How are we going to make our business more profitable? Are we going to, focus on more direct consumer? We do this, we can do that. But at the end of the day, when there's so many key kind of components to the things that you need to make beer and not know how they're going to be affected from one day or the next because some psychopath who's running the biggest economy in the entire world is in charge. And he's just like goes on a whim. It's like, yeah. So the uncertainty is really the thing that's hurting, because people ask me all the time, how's this going to affect you? I'm like, to be honest with you, I have no idea yet. It hasn't yet. I mean, it has, but it hasn't. It's like, I got my first price increase on cans that's going to go up 2 cents a can. It's like 2 cents a can doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 5%. Yeah, we pay a lot for cans. But it's like, yeah, it's really hard to plan. It's really hard to push your team forward. It's really hard to really figure anything out when there's just so much unknown. So that I think is how it's affecting me the most. And most of the people that I'm kind of talking to.
Yeah, Jeff's in smack in the middle of the automotive center of the country as well. So that makes sense. I'd be keen to hear from other people though in rural communities or other provinces. Like, does this feel like you've started to feel it yet, or is this kind of what Jeff's talking about? Is this still basically uncertainty that's really the worst of it?
I can jump in. So I don't have a lot of information as far as like our back end and things like that. But as far as like production and what we've seen within brewing trends, like we have slowly over the years, like slowly kind of reduced how much we do brew in beer. But I think with a lot of our management and decision makers, we've diversified on a lot of our products as well. I think regardless of the state of the world, younger generations tend to just drink less, and they tend to drink less beer as well. So we have kind of diversified our products. We also do RTDs. We do like gin and soda, we do gin, we do vodka. We have what we call it troubled tea, which is essentially a better version of twisted tea. And so we do a lot of that. We've started coming out with mix packs and seasonal flavors, which does drive a large part of our sales. We do have a pretty big production team, pretty big management team. So in order to like keep ourselves moving in an upward direction, we have had to kind of put eggs in different baskets. You just don't know. However, with the way that Alberta does tax different products, we do end up paying a higher tax bracket for RTD products. That's just the way of the world currently, but we also do have whiskey for any of you guys that are big whiskey drinkers under the name Grainhenge, which has had a lot of success in the last year. We actually just won Best Rye Whiskey in the World in the London 2025 Whiskey Awards about a week and a half ago. So we're trying to continue to grow beer, continue to sell beer. It's very competitive, specifically in Calgary and in Edmonton, with us kind of being dead set in the middle. We do have to kind of fight for both of those markets a little bit harder than if, Calgarians maybe don't think we're as local to brands in Calgary, and Edmonton doesn't think we're super local to their brands in Edmonton. So we do kind of have to really push our sales in other markets as well. And it's been great for the company. It's allowed a lot of growth, but it has meant that we've had to diversify, and that just means a little bit of less energy going towards beer and beer sales and beer production. But an opportunity like this and a collab like this is just a great way to get our name out there again and to be able to support like a bigger picture and like beer sales like across the country.
That's great. Does anybody else want to speak to, how any of this is affecting your business or your community?
I'm curious how other people feel about the change in the Ontario market with the opening up of the beer sales and other sales out of all the grocery stores, the gas stations, all these other outlets. I feel like it's impacted our can sales having a beer store license on premise, because we're in a small town where there's a beer store and a liquor store, but pretty much overnight you can get those products from like 6 to 10 places now, as opposed to. So I think it's slowed down a lot of traffic coming in to buy cans direct from the craft brewery, and I don't know if it's something else going on or if other people have noticed that as well.
I'll speak to that because we don't do a lot of retail. We focus mainly on our tap room. But we were talking earlier. I guess it was late last week, but me and Andrea, my partner, I haven't done the analytics yet, but I would like to see year over year because I do not see an increase. I definitely don't see an increase just anecdotally looking at the inventory that we have. It's been slow going through at least at the start of this year. So I don't know. And then and to further the point of like the unsure of like how much we're going to start having to pay for aluminum and that kind of stuff is also kind of a question for me. So, but I do. It's a good point. We're definitely not. We're not anywhere. We're not even the LCBO. I would like them to acknowledge us at some point and accept one of our applications someday, but that's a whole other thing. But I've seen what feels like a decline in sales for sure, and it's because there's a Quickie Mart down the street, the beer stores down the street, like a lot of places you can get beer, and our beer, is at the price point where it's not exactly the cheapest can on the market, so there's that as well. So a lot of things that we're kind of considering internally what we're going to do this year and try to adapt to some of that. But that's from my perspective anyway.
Hearing about people diversifying what they're doing, hearing about people juggling already, just challenges in making beer. Sam, I see your mute off, so I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'm kind of what you're thinking. To me, craft beer is a bit of a luxury item, and I think people with this uncertainty are hedging their bets and not spending as much money on maybe those luxury items that they once did. Our saloon's doing great. Like we're fine there, but they're not taking the beer home. So maybe in the past when they would have a pint or two and then they would take beer with them, now they're saying, okay, I'm going to spend this much money here, and then I just unfortunately can't take beer home with me. Again, this is just anecdotal in our own experience. I don't know. We're a very touristy area, and if people are spending less money in tourism and they're trying to stay at home because they don't know this uncertainty, then maybe this is just something that they're willing to give up and put some money aside somewhere else. And also just, earlier we were like, the younger generations just aren't drinking as much. I don't know if it's the convenience stores. I don't know if it's the grocery stores, but there definitely has been a turn where people have decided to put their money into other things as opposed to that luxury item that is craft beer.
That's a great point, actually. There's sort of two thoughts that come to mind there. On the one hand, it's like, okay, nobody here is, like not everything's great all the time for us either. What is it about making beer and being in a community that sort of lends itself to this kind of thing? I've had people ask me, like, it's kind of uncertain. Are you guys sure you want to be like giving money away? Like, how what is it that motivated you to take this step? Because in my brain, I understand why we want to do this. You sort of lean into the challenge and you show that you're about something bigger than just yourself. And I think that motivates people, and I think they see themselves in what you're doing. But based on what we're talking about, it is hard in beer, and it has been for a while. So what is it that makes us insane as brewery owners to want to go and do stuff like this, even when times aren't necessarily killing it?
Well, breweries are a community center. People come here when times are tough or they're looking for something, and we've been doing community donations and working with all groups in the community since we opened. It's been part of our ethos. And I think that's craft beer as a whole. Like at the beginning, when there wasn't a craft brewery in basically every small community, you travel to go to it. But now, at small towns, it's a place to hang your hat and say, "This is my local brewery." You want to support them, and they want to support you. It's all symbiotic, and everyone comes around to it. But we are a hub for the community, and we want people to come here. So it would be, silly for us not to give back and continue that relationship and do as much as we can to bolster ourselves in this time where it is difficult and people are struggling. And if we can help in a little tiny way, then that's, it would behoove us not to do that.
This is a great segue into, sorry, someone else on you? Someone else want to say something?
No, I just was going to kind of reiterate all that stuff and say that plus the mashing in smells really good when you mash in. That's another bonus. Just wanted to say
that. You got to take the little things, for worse. You got to take the little things.
Yeah, for sure.
Josh, just before we move on, sorry, one thing I was just thinking of that maybe ways that it's impacting us is like, I feel like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, before the last election, but I mean, like, we're talking about the tariffs, we're talking about how it's like, the US, all this stuff. Before that was even happening, we're talking about ways that we can be more efficient because, we're looking at the beer industry and we're thinking as a business for us, and I know talking to a lot of other brewery owners, it's like, okay, well, if we can't continue to grow our customer base with new people who are drinking less or this and that, how can we maintain our current customer base? And how can we be more efficient in the things that we're currently doing? And the things that we're currently doing and efficiencies, as boring as they are, always come down to buying power. And I feel like everything that's going to be that was the focus is like, okay, how can we, increase our buying power? Maybe we're buying with other people, or maybe we're doing this, or maybe we're doing that. And that's a very small portion of what our business, it's definitely not the reason we got into the business. And it's a small portion of what we want our actual day-to-day to be. And the thing that I'm realizing now is all of those things just in this conversation is all of those things that we were looking at and ways to increase efficiencies within our brewery are all of the things that are going to be affected by the tariffs. So it's like all of that has just kind of compounded all of that. They're not tariffing our creativity and our ideas. They're tariffing our costs of goods sold, right? Which is like all the really boring shit that plays a big part of what we can afford to do. So anyways, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just when Sam, no, but when Sam, you're talking, I'm like, yeah, we were worried about all this stuff already. Can costs. It's not like I just started worrying about can costs when the price is going up. I was worried about can costs 6 months ago. And how do I get those down? And now I got to face the harsh reality that whatever it is that I do, it won't compare with, this just out of nowhere kind of charges to be added on. So
Even coming out when COVID came out and we were seeing those massive increases in shipping from Europe, when all those shipping containers and everything sort of got disrupted, it was an eye-opening thing for us too. We're like, well, we do get a lot of hops and a lot of our malt from Europe. At some point in the future, we have to build a situation where we are self-sustainable. We can't, if these shipping containers are going to cost so much to get over from Europe, we have to build a community where we can get our malt and our hops and our yeast, everything from internal that costs less than shipping it around the world. And we want to be better stewards for the environment. So it should be stuff that's local. I mean, it was there, it was coming, whether it was the tariffs or if it was just like this, the world getting, it got bigger and now maybe it has to shrink a little bit. And we have to find places that are local to keep our costs in line and not, destroy the earth at the same time.
I mean, that's a great point. I mean, one of the things I love about beer as an idea is we've been making it for millennia, and until very recently, what you were drinking was necessarily a statement about where you were because you didn't have the option to get German malt and New Zealand hops. And, this beer in some ways is like hitting the rewind button, right? All of a sudden, we're all making a beer. It's a common recipe, but each one of us is working with different suppliers, and it's a different expression of the same idea. And I think, Jeff, just building on the idea that you're talking about, which was, we already had challenges as business owners of small manufacturing businesses. We were already working on those. And in a way, this is just like, it's like a laser focus has been brought on all of those challenges. It's kind of hit fast forward for all of us. Maybe before we move on to who you're supporting and why you chose who you're working with, anybody want to say anything about how they're changing their business planning? Like, one of the things that strikes me, I didn't even realize this until the last month or two, but we don't make 473 ml tall cans in this country. There's like one or two suppliers that make 355 ml short cans, but we don't make them in Canada. And a lot of the assumptions that we had about what we could count on with our friends south of the border, the business case for some of those things has evaporated in like 71 days with the administration that's changed. And I just wonder, I'm thinking in our business, like, what is it that we thought made sense to do that we have to change up on now? Are you thinking about those things? What are those for you? I guess final point too, like I think the country's reconciling with this too. So if you don't have a great answer, that's okay. You and everybody who's going to be fighting to be prime minister right now. But Alicia, go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of combine this question with the previous question because I do have some comments based on what again Sam and Jeff said. I think as a small business, we have 6 full-time year-round employees, and it takes a lot of time and time management and planning to kind of make your brewery more efficient. And sometimes some breweries don't have the luxury of having that staff to do that. My co-owner, Sonia, was well ahead of the ball and was actually quite nervous that the tariffs were going to happen. So we, got the whole shipment of cans before President Trump was even elected. So, that took a lot of planning and preparation. And as you know, like that's, eating up a chunk of your budget too. Being rural in Newfoundland, it's about $600 extra per pallet just to get it for malts here. So, for us to be efficient is important, and strategize. And we don't, like Sam said, like beer is kind of a luxury. We don't want to pass our costs off to the consumer. We want to keep the ones that we have. We want to keep our locals coming in. And just to kind of play off what you were saying, like our local food security is a big issue here in Newfoundland. Like I said, just getting things to the island across the ferry, over in containers is challenging and tricky. And so we chose our local food bank, I guess, to donate to, just to kind of jump ahead a bit. But that's something that our community is facing. And our local Lions Club, God love them. They do great at making sure that food security is, you know, somewhat withheld in Port Rexton. So I just wanted to add those two pieces.
I can kind of jump on there because we're in a similar situation, you know, being so isolated. And quite a few years ago, we started buying truckloads of cans when we could afford it. So we only have to do that maybe 3 times a year now. But getting a whole truckload up here is a lot on shipping. And we used to get it out of the States. I think just late last year, we switched to a company in BC that gets them from China, which also doesn't sound great, but you know, you save money. And yeah, even a few years ago, we built like another warehouse on our property so we could like warehouse this kind of stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you guys in the city don't necessarily have that opportunity where you can just build a giant warehouse on the lot. But yeah, that's been great. And we can obviously we do order grain every 2 weeks or so. But yeah, we can warehouse a lot, and we buy like tons of cardboard at every time. You know, we buy our lids for the year. So right now we're not being hit by any increases in price, but it's just those unknown things. Like we heard the other day about how potentially labels are going to go up in cost, and that's a lot. You know, we do a lot of canning. So yeah, we feel like we're prepared, but also we could be thrown for a total loop at any moment. And also we've had problems in the past year where our highways are taken out by a flood or a forest fire. So you don't have trucks coming up here for weeks. So yeah, that's also another tough thing with climate change coming.
I just wanted to jump in a little bit of a different topic, but still under the umbrella of like a challenge that we've kind of seen. Like we're a fairly small producer, we're fairly niche in what we do. We solely package in bottles, so for like aluminum cans and stuff, that's not really like an issue for us per se. But with how we focus on sourcing local ingredients when we can, as kind of a core thing for our business already, we have a few beers that are 100% Canadian grown. And what we've noticed over the last, or since we've kind of started up, is that these beers are usually seen a little less interesting than whenever you come out with an IPA or a sour or something that's, you know, using some fun, unique ingredients. And when we try to make, you know, just a good basic beer using local ingredients that you think should kind of appeal to a lower, like the lowest common denominator of people of, you know, anyone should be able to drink this. It seems, and we're unclear as to like why maybe these beers aren't as popular, like whether it's historically like a mistrust of local ingredients can't produce good beer, or if it's like the styles, like it's not an IPA or one of the hype styles, so that's why it's not getting the attention we think those beers kind of deserve. Or if it's the fact that like our niche is kind of skewing things a little bit Belgian. But I think for us, we've always tried to push using local ingredients, and like our hope with this kind of thing, with this kind of collaboration, is that, you know, people are more willing to try something that's using local ingredients. It's something that we thought was important as we set out, like taking inspiration from Belgian breweries. They've always kind of worked with you know, their local suppliers and sourcing local fruits and doing that kind of thing. So we kind of transplanted that idea to where we are here, and we didn't see the reception to the idea as we'd hoped when we first started out. So I'm curious to see if an initiative like this will kind of turn that around.
It's an awesome point. You know, it feels like the Overton window of like potential outcomes is so much wider now than it used to be. But I think one to hope for is that people permanently change how they think about what they want to support with their money. And I think, you know, as people are thrashing around thinking like, what do I do? It makes sense that one of the first things they found they can do is to vote with their feet, vote with their wallet. And I think it's cool that all of you are taking part in supporting your local suppliers and making a product that gives people an opportunity to be like, oh yeah, like what I drink actually comes from somewhere. It grew in the ground somewhere before it got to me in a can. And I would love if a permanent outcome of this is people are more open-minded about that kind of thing. I want to kind of open it up. Just so everyone knows for time, I want to respect everybody's time. It's about 1:45. I wanted to keep this between 45 minutes and an hour. If anybody has to drop off, that's totally cool. Are we good for another kind of 10, max 15 minutes? Yeah, perfect. Okay, well then what I'd love to do maybe is just open it up for people who want to talk about, if you want to shout out a local supplier you're working with, or like a flavor profile in your beer, like something that you're excited about with the beer, that would be great. I would also love to give people an opportunity just to speak to which cause you've chosen to support, because I think it's really a critical part of the campaign is we're not just making a beer to sell people because Buy Canada is timely. You're also like using your business to do some good and to make the country stronger at a critical moment. So I'll open it up to whoever wants to speak to either of those things or both.
I can go. First, Estelle, Muse, everything you're doing is great. I just wanted to say that every beer I've had of yours is fantastic. Exactly my jam. I love saisons. That's all I have to say about that. So thank you. And also thanks to Josh for spearheading this, because we are now working with Mimi at Lupuline, we met her, the hop yard up in Quebec. We met her last week. She dropped by maybe a couple weeks ago. And I dry hopped with the El Dorado that she provided yesterday, and it was smelling fantastic. And a hop that I didn't realize was grown in Canada. So that's fantastic. And we've already talked about contracts for this year. So all of that, I'm like, yes, whatever we can do to help, because they were really thinking about shutting down and not plant and just tearing up the hop yard, and it's relatively big. So that's fantastic. I'm very happy about that. And the other thing that we're doing, which is True History in Toronto, has this Canadian Pilsner project. So we're doing that as well. So Ian at Battle House Hops, which is close to us here, and we got some of his Galena from last harvest, and that was fantastic. He was like, don't put it late in the boil. So of course I did it late in the boil, and it was fantastic. I was like, it's hops, it'll be good. Really nice blackberry kind of note to it. I'm really excited about that beer. And then Dean, obviously, doing at Mississippi Mills, who works harder than anybody I know, and really provides, and is really like, if there's a problem, I just call him. And he's just up the road. He will just stop by for a beer. So just having that local connection, and to your point, Estelle, I do think that there's going to be, and it's something that we've strived to do, which is support local. Sometimes it's hard, but I found at our size, because we're so small, it's actually cheaper to buy from Dean if we're buying 20 bags, because he'll just throw it in the truck and drive it down. If we're doing 2 beers and they're only, because we only have a small system. So anyway, I think that, as opposed to paying BSG to put it on a pallet and then drop it off and then you deal with that, I think people will be more receptive going forward. I'm hoping that's going to stay. Sometimes these things are flash in the pans, but I think if we're always going to be pushing this and really marketing it and telling people, like, here are the people that grew the stuff that went into this beer that you're sitting here in this tap room, owned by people who live in the neighborhood or close by. I think that will resound with people, and people will be happy to support that. I'm hoping. So.
I can jump in next. So as for our malt suppliers, we have really quite close relationships with them in our tap room all the time, primarily Red Shed and Hogarth malt. Megan, I'd be curious which malts you bring out of Alberta. We also used Origin Pilsner as our base malt, which is out of Strathmore. But we have a maltster that's about 20 minutes away that's constantly bringing us things at Red Shed. And then we have about 45 minutes away, Hogarth. They're constantly bringing things to us. We have RAR, which is out in Alex, which is maybe like an hour away. So we constantly are having our suppliers in our tap rooms, seeing what we've made with the ingredients that they are able to supply to us. And it's really cool to have that kind of community here in central Alberta. And it doesn't sound like maybe you guys have because of Ontario being totally different, maybe more spread out, you maybe don't have the same proximity with some of your suppliers. So it's eye-opening that we have, our suppliers are 20 minutes away. And I guess having me not spent any time in Ontario or at all, you don't quite understand that, we're kind of blessed in that way to have our suppliers so close. And we have really great relationships with Escarpment as well. And so we brought in Foggy London as our yeast. And we prop that up ourselves here with our lab tech. And we haven't really figured out our dry hop yet. I think we're going to just see how it tastes when it's done fermenting or getting close. And it's really cool to just be able to support our Alberta malts. And as far as who we're supporting with our donation, with this being like a Canada-wide collab, we're supporting the Veterans Outreach just to really support all of Canada-wide. And we do a lot of other very local donations and things like that, but we felt that it was the right fit for something across the entire country to be able to support people that have really done so much for us. And yeah, Megan, I'm curious which malts you bring up from out of Alberta.
Yeah, we've used red shed malt many times. We're starting to use more and more of it. There's a funny connection to the Yukon because Joe and Matt's sister Katie lives up here, so she got us onto them, which was just super fun to support the family, right?
Yes.
We've also used hammer malt, which I think is more north. So that might be the closest maltster to us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we decided to go with red shed malt this time around, and we got a hop farm in BC, like it's either Abbotsford or Chilliwack, I can't remember now, but it's called Tops Hops. And we worked with them to do our fresh hop beer this past fall, so we thought we'd reach out to them because we know they grow the hops there. We decided not to get the Eldorado out of Quebec just because that was such a far way to come for us. So we're subbing some other thing that Tops has. Super excited about that. Yeah, no idea what it's gonna taste like. It'd be super fun. But yeah, we love IPAs. We make a lot of IPAs. So we looked at other recipes and kind of melded it with what you guys provided from Dominion.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I do want to say I have been to your brewery a couple years ago.
Oh, yay.
And loved it. And I packed my suitcase full with a lot of beer coming home.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, next time we're in Red Deer, we'll make sure to come by for sure.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Cool. I guess I can add that what we're going to be supporting, I've kind of been humming and hawing the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to do something that was about the welcoming communities, because that's something we've been kind of pushing in our tap room, just even with like a code of conduct and sharing our values wide all around our tap room. We recently had an incident actually last week where someone had thrown out a sign in the garbage, and we decided to post about that because obviously this person had some reason to hate on what we were promoting. And so we shared that on social media and reiterated that, we're really all for supporting creating a welcoming space and making sure everyone feels welcome. And we had overwhelming support from, our fans around, and it was great to see that. So, it makes us feel like we should keep moving in that direction. So we're going to be supporting a Canada-wide organization. I believe you would call it EGALE, like EGALE. So it's, its mission is basically to support the Two-Spirit LGBTQI community, and especially with elections coming up, making sure we are protecting the rights of everyone in Canada. So yeah, I'm super excited to share that.
We're the beer that we're doing is we're doing the IPA, obviously, whatever. But the hops that we got are from just outside of London, called Backroads hops. They actually run a super cool shop called Brews and Shoes. It's a really weird combination. Like there's like this Venn diagram of beer drinkers and runners that cross over. So they hold these run shops and beer takeovers at this restaurant, their bar and high end running shoe shop. But they also run a hop farm. So we've used them a few times. Really interesting guys. Ben and his crew there, they're fantastic. We also got some Eldorado and Centennial from Lupuline in Quebec as well. Our malt comes from, it's a 2-row rar that we get. It's our base 2-row. So we use that and a little bit of the Gambrinus honey malt from BC. And the yeast, this is the experimental part. Lallemand out of Montreal was Kevin Somerville, our rep there. He's a friend of mine, and he wanted to do a collab on this new strain that they have called 483 right now. It will be released on April 21st as their first limited strain. It's going to be the style that they wanted to work on is called Northern IPA, which was new to me, but it sort of fit this project very well. So it's kind of a cross between a cold IPA and a West Coast, which there's not a lot of room in there, but whatever, it's in there. And with the hops that we chose, we're pretty excited how this will turn out. We were a little concerned because the ice storm knocked our power out for pretty much 48 hours this past weekend, and we just brewed it on Friday. So it might have got a little out of the temperature range, but not much we can do. I guess it'll be called Glorious and Free Rise in this occasion, because there's really, once it kicked off, there's not a lot we could do. And the group that we're supporting is called Muskoka Community Foundation, which is a group that supports a number of different projects around the community. And it sort of tells you where to put your money, like if it's important to put it here. So they have their hands in everything that's happening in Muskoka, whether it's housing or hunger or unemployment, and they direct all the funds to these places and what will be. So we're sort of going to wait and see once our beer comes out on April 23rd. They're going to direct us as to which group is the most affected by the tariffs and anything that happens with this. And then they're going to direct us to put our money into that particular fund. So it's a bit of just like everything, a wait and see at this point, but we wanted to keep it in Muskoka and really work on that community and give back to the community that supports us. And that's our take on this one. And thanks Dominion City for putting it together. You guys rule.
Okay, I'll go, I guess. We have we were using a supplier, and Josh and both Josh and John are very familiar with Dean. It makes basically the owner of Mississippi Mills malt, and we've used his malt before, particularly Pilsner malt. We really liked it, and we continue to use it in some of our beers. But this one is just 100% his malt. I guess we used a little bit of Canadian oats as well. And then for the hops, we're using a hop farm products from Pontiac, which is just across the river, really a 30 minutes drive from here, from downtown Ottawa. And they're in Quebec, and we're using their Cascade and Centennial hops. So just a good combination of hops with a lot of citrus, a little bit of a pineapple, interestingly, in there. And I'm very excited about this beer. And as I mentioned, I think early next week we can release it, depending on when we get our labels. Regarding the communities, the organization we're supporting, there's the Ottawa Community Immigration Services, Ottawa Immigration Services, that is basically helping new immigrants and refugees that choose Ottawa as a destination or just end up here. They kind of get their feet under them and settle properly, as well as the Terry Fox Foundation. Just wanted to do one that is a little bit national, and one is kind of local, kind of help both organizations a little bit as much as we can. And so, yeah, super excited, and I really love to try everybody's beer again. I don't know how we could do this, Josh. I think you might have something in mind. I don't know. I knowing you, I think you already planned it, but if not, that'd be awesome to plan something.
You know what? The government might let us ship beer to each other soon, so we'll have to get on that.
Be nice. Yeah.
Canada
That'd
Day,
be nice.
right?
Listen, I want to keep going and let everybody who wants to speak, but I just have to interrupt and just say, like, you guys make me so damn proud, honestly. Like, I don't know. It's just nice hearing y'all speak about what you're doing and the passion you have. And honestly, there's a reason I love this industry. And it's like, I'm not blowing smoke, but I don't think there's another industry where peers, competitors can collaborate like this and where they prioritize doing some good. And I mean, we've got from veterans organizations to 2S LGBTQ plus groups. There's someone who's supporting an indigenous organization, refugee welcome, immigration and settlement. Like this is like our Canada. I just think that is so cool, and it's not some kind of blind, silly patriotism. It's like a real pride of place and wanting to make a better country, and I don't know, just proud like crazy. So good on y'all.
I guess I can talk a little bit about our ingredients next. So normally under regular circumstances, we would have liked to use some of our own homegrown grains. Unfortunately, this past year, the crop was hit with some weather that made it not feasible for malting, unfortunately. But through the process of growing our own grains, we've worked with a few different maltsters that we've seen kind of come and go. So kind of highlighting another one of the challenges in the industry is that local maltsters aren't necessarily well established enough to stick it out in the long run yet. But then because of that, this beer kind of gave us an opportunity to look for a new maltster or new company to work with. So we're working with Mississippi Mills for the first time for the biggest part of our grain bill. And then Gambrinus for some of the specialty stuff. Also, the Eldorado hops from Quebec. We've never worked with those hops before, so for us, that's kind of a fun thing to be able to try out. And again, the story of how they weren't sure if they were going to be sticking around or if they were downscaling or what was going on. So to be able to work with them and support them and see that they might keep going after this is really motivating to see. And then we've also worked with Backroads in the past out of London, but for this beer we're working with the Tavistock hop company for the Chinook and Centennial. And then I guess our own like little unique spin on the beer is that we're using our farmhouse yeast, again with that Belgian influence that we kind of have in most of our beers. Makes it a little bit more of a Belgian IPA, and then dries out the beer a little bit. So it might be a little different than what some other breweries are doing, but kind of a different way to showcase what you can do with those local ingredients. And then for the organization that we're working with, we decided to stick with our local Lions. They put on a bunch of community events that we get to take part of. So they're always doing a lot of good work to support us and other local breweries and doing various things for the community. And I think at this time when everybody's kind of struggling and hurting and everything's so uncertain, the Lions bring a lot of positivity to the community. So then being able to give back to them in this way is something that we thought would be a good fit.
I can go if you want. So our beer's done. We released it last week and it just sold out today, which is great. We're very excited about that. It helped that Collective Arts came in and bought like 9 cases of it. That was kind of the last 9 cases that were available. We focused on building this beer in kind of like a West Coast style IPA. I know Mike, our head brewer, would hate me even saying the words no coast. He just, for some reason, really doesn't like the term no coast IPA, which I don't see why it's so terrible, but it's pretty, like everyone kind of knows what you mean when you say that. But anyways, it's, let's call it a contemporary West Coast then, which is just a no coast. Anyways, we used hops from Lupulin. Is that how you say it? I hope. As well. We use their Centennial Cascade and El Dorado. We admittedly haven't used, I don't think we've used, well, we've used Canadian hops a few times, but not a lot. We typically fall into the YCH, Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe, all the hits kind of thing. And this was an eye opener for us because we were like, okay, we're going to use this, we're going to do this. I think that we erred on the side of caution by going with the West Coast because we just assumed that the Canadian hops would be a little more piney and a little more resinous and a little less fruity. I think the El Dorado kind of proved us wrong in that regard a little bit. But yeah, it turned out great. I really enjoyed the beer. Thanks, Josh, for the kind of the invitation and the push to do this because, and again, we needed a kind of a shake out of what we're doing on, I don't want to say autopilot. We put a lot of thought into our beers, but I mean, you guys know what I mean. To open up our eyes to kind of what's available, and it's not just an IPA. Now we're looking at the Canadian Pilsner project as well. We signed up for that. I think a lot of these hops would be really good in lagers, which again are becoming more and more popular. So anyways, we're happy with the beer. It's sold out and I loved it. And unfortunately, some people have said that it's the best looking can we've had all year, Josh, which I'm not too stoked about. So thanks for setting an impossible bar. And then we're helping out Feed the Need in Durham, which provides emergency food services for people who are in need. Because if you can't eat, you can't live. So we thought that was important. We've supported them on a couple of different things before. And so this wasn't the first time. And we just, we're like, if we're going to do an additional donation this year, who could use it? And with the way that the world is right now, definitely they can. So.
That's awesome. Just a quick thought. I know there's a couple more to go, but when we open, we're old enough now that when we open, I remember it was a year or two maybe after there was almost a crop failure in the Pacific Northwest for hops, and it was really, I think, in hindsight, it was that year where people were getting shorted on contracts. If you didn't have a contract, the spot market basically dried up. But there was this explosion of local hop growing in Ontario, and I think people were like, "Oh yeah, like they're going to need us." And I think there's space to self-criticize that like we didn't necessarily rally to their side and help them grow the way that bars and restaurants. Someone alluded to this early. They were critical in our growth early on, and this is a chance, right? It's like a use it or lose it philosophy. If you want to have a domestic industry for some of these things, you got to support them. And so all of you doing that now, that you're literally putting air in their tires to keep going. So I think that's really cool. I think Alicia and maybe Daniel are the last two, I think, to maybe speak to their beers and causes.
I'll just jump in there. Sorry, Daniel. Yeah, so just one piece that we decided to go with the Yeast Innovations Canada and using their saturated yeast. So that's a company that's new to us. We were heavy escarpment fans, but for those that don't know, we also have a gluten-free beer that we produce here. So we have certification, things that we need to follow and cleaning procedures and all this stuff. And so I wanted to try Yeast Innovations first gen gluten-free, and then we can harvest that and use it in the brewery elsewhere. So we kind of use their saturated blend and put it in this brew. So we're excited. It might be a no coast. It might be more East Coast focused. And like just to add to what I said earlier, we are also using the Lions Club here in Port Rexton. They see the needs as well, and they support elderlies getting to and from their appointments for transportation. They'll pick up food and deliver it to people that in need. So they're also a community hub, just much like our tap room. The community relies on them a lot, and for us to give back to them and support them any way we can is something we always look forward to do, and this is just another opportunity to do that.
Okay, I guess I'm it then. I'm last, so I'll go. I'm actually going to use that same yeast as well. I kind of forgot till you mentioned it that I happen to have a brick sitting in the cold room there that I got from Innovations. So that'll be the perfect yeast for this. I haven't brewed my beer yet. I'm going to brew it probably the last week of April. I just looked at the recipe yesterday, actually. So I think the malt bill will be pretty much exactly what was shown there. This will be a good opportunity for me to reach out to Mississippi Mills again. I used them early on, and then as I got busy, I got a little bit lazy about trying to focus hard on local suppliers. So I'll reach out to them and use some of their malts for the base malts. For the hops, I have a meeting actually tomorrow in Kingston with some other breweries. It's being put on by Wolf Island Hop Yard. So I'll be talking to him about hops. He doesn't have the specific hops for this recipe, but he helps, source them from other Ontario hop yards. So that shouldn't be a problem. And I didn't know El Dorado was available in Quebec, so I'll almost certainly explore that. The charity we went with is the local North and Central Frontenac Food Bank. It's kind of our go-to charity when we have money to send out of the brewery. I mean, somebody mentioned it earlier that craft beer it's basically a luxury item. So it sucks a little bit that prices are probably going to go up, but it's a bit of a first world problem. Whereas food prices going up is a real problem. So it seems like a solid place to send some money. And I know they're pretty small, so they really appreciate it when you send them anything.
Awesome, folks. Yeah, I think unless anybody has anything else they desperately want to say, this was awesome. Again, thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for putting up with me dropping my phone 3 times in a row. We'll clip it out. Sierra's going to try to get clips out to each of you to use, sort of shortly. And I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe we're going to post the whole thing as well on YouTube, just if anyone wants to link to the whole thing. I think I'll send that out to the rest of the campaign. So if people were too afraid to volunteer to be here today, maybe we'll do it again, and they'll see that nobody got bit. Honestly, thank you. This is great. Go ahead, John.
One
Sorry,
last thing to say is that I guess if we want to try Jeff's beer, we have to get in our car and drive down to his brewery.
I mean, let's all meet at Jeff's. Yeah.
I haven't been there yet.
Neither have I.
I forgot to mention that we're donating to the Somerset West Community Health Center, very local to us in Chinatown, but they do really good work with addiction services at helping with that. They've had some issues with the new Ford government kind of taking away some of the services that they do provide, but they've always been here to help, and they do really good work there. So we'll be donating to them.
Listen, I'm a sentimental man, but I do genuinely appreciate you all doing this. And I think, someday when someone asks you what you did when your country was facing a dark hour, you'll have a good answer. So I think you should be proud of what you're doing, and you should be proud of your businesses, and just really want to say thanks for doing this with us. Okay. Appreciate all of you. Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks for making time.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, buddy.
Nice to meet everyone.
A water
Yeah.
glass.